Hi, this is Anthony. Welcome back to my show. Well, folks, I did something that I didn't think that I'd ever do, and that is watch Top Gun Maverick. But I was at my local library and saw a copy of it on the shelf and thought that since I started doing Scientology-related videos that I might as well watch the film and see if there's even a shred of Scientology that megastar Tom Cruise might have been able to get squeezed into the content of the story. I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of the story, and I actually enjoyed it. These type of films are not quite what I would normally watch, and I've never watched the original, but if you don't mind movies with a heavy dose of military action and a small dose here and there of sentimental scenes, then you'll probably enjoy this film. Just as far as pure entertainment, I'd probably give this a 9.0 out of a scale of 10. And I didn't see anything that smacked of anything related to the beliefs or practices of Scientology, but I'd be interested to hear if anybody disagrees with that. If so, even if you disagree a little bit, leave a comment in the comments section on what parts of Top Gun Maverick you thought had a Church of Scientology belief connection. As far as Tom Cruise, I think he's a great actor. I'm not necessarily a big fan of his advocacy for the Church of Scientology and the abuses of Scientologists, in particular Sea Org members, who've had interactions with Mr. Cruise. For that reason, as much as possible, I personally refrained from supporting his movie career. If I could avoid paying to see his films, I do. And in general, I don't have much interest in his movies anyway. But if there is one that I wanted to see, I would just get it for free at my library. What Tom Cruise movie that I did enjoy, although not everyone holds the same sentiment, is the movie Valkyrie. Whatever controversies there might be vis-a-vis Scientology in Germany, despite some inaccuracies in the film, I think that it was extremely well acted by a whole cast of excellent actors, and it's good for people to understand a slice of German history from that time. But as I compose the text of this video, the concept of canceling subscriptions and cancel culture is in my mind. Obviously, most of us know of the recent departure from the Aftermath Foundation, and a lot of people have stated specifically on my videos in the comment section that they're canceling their subscriptions to some SPTV creators, in particular the Headleys and Mike Rinder. And of course, people are completely free to do what they want, and I'm not going to tell them what to do other than suggesting thinking things through before they actually execute on something. For instance, I've gotten many comments saying that the commenter is going to continue watching videos from Mike Rinder and the Headleys, but that they unsubscribe from those creators as a form of punishment towards them. Now, obviously, creators don't want to lose any subscribers, but it's not really subscribers that make you money. It's people viewing your videos. And if you're upset with Claire or Mark or Mike, and you wanted to punish them, simply unsubscribing from them but still watching their videos may not have the financial effect that you had intended. But that being said, I have a feeling that most people that are upset with those three people in particular were perfectly happy with them up to a few weeks ago. If you are still watching them, even if you unsubscribe from their channels, you probably realize that they still have very relevant and valuable information to impart to viewers about their experiences within Scientology. Anyway, I think, at least for me, more relevant information about a topic from different sources is better than the same information from only one source. Anyway, I encourage people to consider that. But are there cases where one should really be canceled or deplatformed? Actually, that's way too big of a question, and again, there's a lot of complexities and nuances, but here's a couple things that have come up in the last few days. So, after I watched Top Gun Maverick, I also had picked up The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I'm sure that I don't need to tell you that the Demeter was the name of the ship that Count Dracula came to England on. Anyway, the movie, for the most part, was what I expected. It was okay. I would say a 6.5 out of a scale of 10. And not to diminish anyone else's performance, but one performance stood out to me, and that was the actor who played the captain. He had a certain look and accent that was supposed to be a British captain, even though the ship was supposedly Russian. And the actor, who it turns out is Irish, kind of looked like Michael Caine made up to look like a sea captain. The actor is Liam Cunningham, and while I only watched the first episode, many people will know him from the Game of Thrones, evidently. But reading through his article on Wikipedia, I see that besides supporting a Trotskyite Socialist Party in Ireland, it also says that, quote, in 2015, Cunningham was one of over 100 artists who signed a letter to The Guardian, which is a newspaper, announcing support for a cultural boycott of Israel. Unquote. It's interesting that Western academics and their Red Guard-like students are keen to boycott Israel on many different levels, but they're less keen to call out Russia, who's been involved in taking over parts of neighboring sovereign countries for a number of years now. These enlightened academics don't seem to be concerned about boycotting the military junta of Myanmar, which actually is engaged in a civil war right now. There doesn't seem to be a lot of academic-led cultural boycotts of China, despite what they have done and are still doing to Uyghurs and Tibetans, among other minorities in the People's Republic. But from my years of studying for an undergraduate and then a master's degree in political science at the University of Oregon, as well as studying in what is now the University of Micronesia and the University of Szeged in Hungary, I've learned that you shouldn't expect intellectual consistency or moral honesty from people in academia. And if you know anything about the Irish, they are in particular strong supporters of a Catalonian state carved out of the Kingdom of Spain, as well as a two-state solution in Israel-Palestine. It's interesting that Irish Catholics, in particular, are keen on having other countries having two-state solutions, yet are for a one-state Ireland. By the way, I was raised Catholic, and my paternal family is Protestants from Northern Ireland, and I have Irish Catholics on my mother's side of the family. So I think I'm justified at least a little bit in my criticism of Ireland. But I think that right now they should be concentrating on cleaning up all the anti-immigrant rioting from last week. Anyway, I'm starting to get off the subject, but what about actors who hold despicable views? Should they be canceled? What if it's a comedian? What if they make jokes now that are considered to be politically incorrect? What if it's a joke that they told 20 years ago that was more politically correct at the time? I mean, this almost seems laughable when we're trying to cancel comedians who have told edgy jokes that may, even to a degree, be true, but they're just uncomfortable to hear. And sure, comedians can help perpetrate harmful or hurtful stereotypes, and I don't think that that's necessarily a good idea. Sure, they may have the freedom of speech, but they also have the responsibility of considering what they're saying and perhaps self-censor certain things that don't need to be said or joked about. But I'll tell you, while I don't actively, intentionally listen to hip-hop, on occasion I encounter it, and the lyrics and the concepts that the genre of music contain seem quite frankly to be far worse than anything Louis C.K. or Eddie Murphy has ever said that I've ever heard. And certainly a comedian saying something is different than a professor saying something. Certainly there aren't any easy answers to this, and it probably depends on the situation and a number of other factors. But how might it relate to Scientology? One of the YouTube channels that I've watched from the very beginning, and which has inspired me in part to do my own channel, is called the Iced Coffee Hour. This is hosted by two young individuals who usually talk to people about business, whether they're from show business or sports or real estate. And they upload one program each Sunday morning generally. Despite any criticism that I might have for them today, I encourage you to check out their channel. I'll tell you something. I'll look at their guests sometimes in the thumbnail and think, what am I going to learn from that person? But I give them the chance, and many of their guests, despite often being quite young, have a wealth of very relevant modern-day business advice and information to give, and a lot of philosophical things that intersect with success and business. So really do check them out. But on occasion, I'm a little disappointed with some of their selections of guests. I understand getting a controversial so-called guru can get a lot of views, but the problem when you have somebody, to a lot of people, who are considered to be not much more than a con artist is that the hosts want to be respectful to their guests so that they don't just storm off. And also the hosts don't necessarily have the background to really challenge and draw out answers and responses from some of their guests. The most recent one that caused me some concern, in which I've not yet watched the video, was their interview with Grant Cardone, who we all know is a Scientologist. I believe that Aaron has stated that Grant was an OT8. I think that when you are a legitimate, well-respected channel like the Iced Coffee Hour, and you bring somebody on that it gives Grant or other people further legitimacy, one which I don't think that he deserves and which I think is harmful to potential investors with him in his real estate dealings, as well as other people who are considering buying courses or attending his high-price seminars. But do I think that people like Grant Cardone should be canceled? Well, let's put it this way. I think that for someone like him or other gurus who are not Scientologists, the best format in the interest of the public would have someone like Grant Cardone, and the other guest would be somebody who has relevant and extensive knowledge about Scientology, somebody like Aaron Smith Levin. Now, there's no way that Grant Cardone is going to agree to that, but I think that if a creator is going to feature someone who is so controversial, there needs to be, for the public benefit, somebody who could bring up relevant challenges so that the viewers can see when questions are not being answered completely or truthfully. And this goes for other topics. Rarely do you see climate change activists who are willing to debate scientists who don't believe in man-made global warming, or Palestinian activists who are willing to debate an Israeli government official, etc. And before anyone messages me, yes, I know that Aaron Smith Levin put out a reaction video yesterday about Grant Cardone's interview on the Iced Coffee Hour. I just saw that video, although I had intended to talk about the original one when I first saw it featured on Sunday. Lastly, I think that I'll wind down here, but one comment out of the many hundreds that I've gotten in the last few days on my various videos was about certain members of the Aftermath Foundation. I said that it looked like both sides to Aaron Smith Levin's departure from the Aftermath Foundation had seemed to move on and resume their lives. This commenter pointed out, I think, that while Claire had made a video that Mark and Mike hadn't. Well, I think that Mark had posted something recently that said he was busy with work and perhaps out of town and was going to resume videos when he got back. I haven't looked to see if Mike Rinder has posted anything, but he doesn't post a whole lot anyway. Plus, we have to remember that these people have lives and lots going on with families and holidays and jobs and health issues. And so just because somebody hasn't posted a new video in the last 2 days doesn't mean that they're still traumatized by what went on at a recent Aftermath Foundation board meeting. One of the biggest complaints about Scientology is that it tears apart families, and it really does. And people outside the bubble of people that know about this really don't understand that. And other cultish or high-demand religious groups sometimes do it, whether it's the Amish or Mennonites or sometimes Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses. I understand why the leaders of some groups, perhaps some of the ones that I just mentioned, or ones like the Moonies or Scientology, want their members to disconnect with apostates or people who have left. Because when people leave and their lives become better and happier and more successful, and they tell their relatives and friends who are still in the high-demand religions or the cults how much nicer life is on the outside, then those cults and high-demand religions will tend to lose more and more members. And religious leaders don't like to lose members because it loses them money. In a different way, a similar thing is kind of happening here. I don't think that the board of the Aftermath Foundation acted like they were still high-ranking Sea Org members. I don't think that they backstabbed Aaron Smith Levin. I don't think that they were up to their old Scientology tricks. This is a volunteer board where they're not getting paid for their time. They don't gain anything as far as extra power by getting rid of Aaron. By getting rid of Aaron, they lose donations, and in the eyes of Aaron supporters, they lose their reputation, and their personal YouTube channels lose subscribers. There was no incentive for them to get rid of him other than his behavior, which he has admitted to and alluded to was becoming a distraction for the board members and violated policies that existed. These are not policies that had not been voted on. These were policies that were there from day one in the bylaws, which Aaron has admitted that Luis Garcia had put in the founding documents. Now, I know many of you will disagree with that. That's fine. You don't have to agree with me. But by unsubscribing to some members of SPTV's constellation of channels, are you falling into a disconnection mindset? Despite sometimes having to refer to semi-clickbaity titles, my goal in these is to analyze what we know that's going on, which we will never know the full extent, but also consider how we can best move forward in the most positive manner that we can. Watching YouTube channels under the SPTV umbrella really is about learning about all the facets of problematic behavior by the Church of Scientology and supporting the Aftermath Foundation and other groups, including a possible future foundation that Aaron Smith Levin is intending to create. It's about helping people escape Scientology and getting settled back into the real world. Isn't that what most of us support, at least in theory, even if you're not supporting it financially? Just think about that for a moment. Okay, I'm going to stop here. If you're still watching my video, I really appreciate it. I know that a lot of you disagree with me, and that's okay. It's a free country, and we don't need to all agree with each other. But hopefully we can disagree in a respectful manner. And most of the people that disagree with me have been very respectful in their comments. Whether you agree or disagree with me, I'd love to hear from you on whether it's a few words or a couple paragraphs. If you haven't already, I really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. I've already got my channel monetized, and after about 3 years and probably 375 videos, I've made about $22. And if you appreciate the time that it takes to make these videos, comment. Even if you disagree with me, why don't you just hit that like button and check out my other videos. I have a whole lot more than just Scientology, a wide range of topics, something for everybody. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.